How is everyone doing tonight? I mean, today. It's so early. I
It
stayed up
is too
so late
early.
last night, just thinking about this debate and what I'm gonna say today about it. So it's been a wild past 12 hours, that's for sure.
Yeah, honestly. Oh, and hello, Facebook. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of the
Hello.
Morning Buzz. Woo!
I'm so
Lewis is putting
happy.
on his chapstick. He's getting ready, putting in more effort than I am. I just like rolled out of bed and then I panicked for about 5 minutes trying to find my ID. It was great.
Oh, that sounds like me every morning. Except I'm not on campus. I just do it in my bed,
I'm on
running to
campus,
class,
unfortunately.
running to Zoom class in my pajamas, which we
How do you
love.
run to? Do you just run to your laptop?
I literally throw my body to my computer and I'm like I have class at 8:15 and
You
it's
just like
like
jog in place when you're running late to your Zoom class.
I really do. Oh,
All
fun
right,
times.
and we forgot our newscaster. What's up?
How you
Sorry.
doing? My name's Louis Biontolillo. Glad to be here today.
Glad to have you here, Lewis. We missed you last week. What happened?
Um,
If you can disclose.
yeah, I was in an undisclosed location.
Oh.
Can't say.
Yeah,
Oh,
he was
okay.
doing something related to
Mysterious.
nuclear secrets.
I got my
Very
eyes on you,
fresh.
Lewis.
But you know what? I'm back and I have a newscast if you guys are ready for it.
I'm ready.
Hey, what's our news for today, dude?
Good morning from 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. This is your newscaster, Louis Biontolillo, bringing you news from across the country. Last night was the first presidential election of 2020 between President Donald Trump and Vice President Joe Biden. The debate caused a lot of controversy on social media, many calling out both candidates for their poor performances. The president failed to condemn white supremacy, and the vice president called himself the Democratic Party. According to the Wall Street Journal, the stock market dipped unexpectedly just before the presidential debate yesterday. Some economists say that the stock market will continue to go down due to the poor performance of the candidates last night. In New Jersey news, Governor Phil Murphy posted the words legalize it, referring to recreational marijuana. The drug is on the ballot in New Jersey to become legalized this November. It is question number one on all New Jersey ballots. In weather, it is 58 degrees today with a chance of showers in the morning. It will go up to 69 degrees later in the day before plummeting to 55 this evening. This has been your newscast from 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. This is Louis Biontolillo. I'm back to Carly in the studio.
Excellent. Thank you, Lewis. And of course, we're back at it again with another 2-minute warning with Campbell Donovan. Take it away, Campbell.
Thank you. 2-minute warning here on 90.3 WMC Upper Montclair. Yesterday, baseball with the new formally wild card since the shortened 60-game MLB season. The Astros came back in the ninth inning to defeat the Minnesota Twins. Luis Giolito took a perfect game in the seventh inning, but it still paved the way for the White Sox to beat the Oakland Athletics. And Blake Snell shut down the Toronto Blue Jays as the Rays beat them 3-1. The Yankees cruised to a 12-3 victory in Game 1 in the new 3-game set as the Evil Empire had 4 home runs last night as a team, and Garrett Cole went 7 innings with 13 strikeouts. A slew of baseball games all day today, starting at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, with the Cincinnati Reds taking on the Atlanta Braves and ending with a 10 o'clock showdown between the Milwaukee Brewers and Los Angeles Dodgers. Check your local listings. ABC, ESPN, and TBS will all broadcast those games respectively. The NBA Finals will get started tonight as the Los Angeles Lakers and the Miami Heat will go at it with each other. The big news story about that, LeBron James, who won his first NBA championship with the Miami Heat, will face his old squad tonight. Tip off at 9 o'clock tonight, with that broadcast being on ESPN. In tennis, this morning, breaking news, Serena Williams, regarded as one of the best tennis players in the world, will not be competing in the French Open and not getting a record 24th Grand Slam title achievement as she is out with the Achilles injury. And in hockey, a journey has come to an end for Rangers fans in doubt. And as Henrik Lundqvist will get bought out today, the winningest goaltender in Rangers history will now become free agent and will go elsewhere, depending on how the offseason pushes with free agent frenzy beginning on October 9th. And also in football, to end off, congratulations to Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback of the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, as him and his fiance, Brittany Matthews, announced that they will be expecting their first child. That is a 2-minute warning here on 90.3 WMC, Upper Montclair, New Jersey. We'll throw it back to Carly.
Thank you so much, Campbell. So let's get into the news, which pretty much might be our only story today. We're still trying to figure this out because we have a lot of strong opinions. And speaking of strong opinions, let's talk about the first presidential debate. Wow, guys, I've seen many garbage fires, but this certainly was one. And I know that we have fact checkers here, so they may or may not agree that this is in fact a garbage fire. So Joe Biden and President Donald Trump former Vice President Joe Biden and President Donald Trump had their first debate last night. No handshakes, no formalities, straight into the politics. Lots of interrupting. If anyone has taken away anything, it's that Trump will not respect the moderator. He actually debated with the moderator within the first 10 minutes. A lot of fiery language was exchanged, some that we will get into in this program. The most popular quote of the night was from Joe Biden, where he said to Donald Trump, will you shut up, man, end quote. And one of the other main takeaways of this debate was President Trump did not condemn white supremacist groups, specifically the Proud Boys, and their horrible, horrible, horrible behavior. He specifically said, stand back and stand by, I believe. I have to check that one, but he did not condemn white supremacist groups. And I have to say, the other issues that were discussed were the Supreme Court, climate change, COVID-19, and police brutality, all of which were just really it was a shouting match. And honestly, I am considering moving out of the country. I don't know about you guys, but Ireland's looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, Carly, I mean, I'm just thinking about where do I begin within my thoughts about this debate, because there's so much that occurred. You know, it's one thing. I just don't understand how our president could come out in front of the entire world and act like such a child. There are so many kids who are watching this debate for the first time in their life. There are children who are watching this debate with their families, and this is our leader, this is our president. I just find it amazing that this man is so proud of himself too. Like he really believes that he's the best president of the United States ever, and that he has done so much for this country. And I look at how he behaves and how he treats others, even the moderator, with such disrespect. And Joe Biden, we're going to get more into that later, but it's just truly unbelievable. And I was embarrassed watching it last night.
It's like, the best way I could describe it was like I was watching, like I used to work in retail. It's like watching people try to argue with like a retail customer, and then they try to bring in the manager, but the manager's too busy to come in and handle the situation.
Before we get any further, I'd like to remind our listeners and our viewers on Facebook Live that the views and opinions expressed by any participant today on the Morning Buzz is solely theirs and not representative of WMSC or Montclair State University.
Exactly. Like, we definitely need to keep that in mind, because we all definitely feel very, very strongly when it comes to this election, which may be one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime.
I can honestly say this is the first debate that I have fully sat through and watched the entire thing. In past years, it was like, oh, like I sat down for a little bit and like, you know, like they were talking and I was just kind of like, oh, like I wasn't big into politics before. These past 2 years, I really got into the news and politics, and before then, I was just not as interested about it. But now watching this and seeing this as my first presidential debate, I'm so disgusted. And you know, the part that really hit me the most that made me sit there and really question our country and who was our president was when Joe Biden was talking about his son Beau, who died of brain cancer and who served in the military. And he was telling Trump like that he was an honorable person. You know, he was in the military. And what does Trump say? He's talking about his dead son. Trump slaps back with, "Oh, but your other son, he's a drug addict," and starts throwing stuff about Hunter. How dare you? The disrespect. If someone's going to sit there and talk about their dead son, their son who died, their son who served for our country, and you have the audacity to cut them off and to be so disrespectful to them when they're talking about their own son who died at a young age. Like, are you kidding me? Are you actually kidding me right now?
And what's even sadder is Beau died recently. Like, I don't remember the exact year, but like knowing how much tragedy like Joe Biden has gone through in his life, like losing his wife and daughter in a car accident, and now losing his son at like an extremely young age to cancer. 2015. Like he died of brain cancer in 2015, which I know like it's 2020, but still that kind of stuff you never really like get over. Like
and even when Joe was talking about it, you could tell the emotion that he was feeling, that he was, it saddened him thinking about his son and about how he died. And in that moment, I felt for him. I was empathetic for him, because I can only imagine what he had gone through. And I felt his emotion just watching it on my TV. And for Trump to physically be there with him and to just be like, "Oh, whatever, like Trump doesn't care. All he cares about is himself." And that really made me sad, because I've almost felt like I could have shed a tear in that moment, especially after seeing our Trump, how he so rudely disregarded the whole story and his point. And not to mention that Trump did call the veterans and people who died in the military losers. That's a whole other story, but that in and of itself just shocked me, because that is also, I believe, a fact.
yeah, like going back to the Beau Biden thing, I read like the book that Biden wrote after his son's death, and oh my god, this poor man. Like there's a lot of things that like they go into in the book, and the fact that like Trump immediately disrespected this, like his son, just hits different. And speaking of disrespect, honestly, did you guys catch that Joe Biden called Trump a clown to his face?
Oh, of course I did. That was like, every time Joe threw a punch at Trump, I was like, yes. I was like, you go, Joe. Like, yes. Because I know we're all going to have our different opinions on the debate and who we think won and whatnot. But I personally believe, I thought Joe did a great job regarding the circumstances that he was in, considering he was dealing with a man-child and this poor it's called a moderator, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Chris
Okay.
Wallace.
Yes, Chris Wallace. I thought, not for nothing, I know Chris Wallace has been getting a lot of hate on the internet that he should have stepped in earlier, but not for nothing. Do you think he was expecting for this to go like this right away? In the first 5 minutes, people cutting over each other? I think this poor man was probably just shocked, and he was in the moment and he was stressed out and he didn't know exactly how to handle the situation properly, as I would be. But yeah, I'm sorry, I know I digressed a little bit. We were talking about all right, Carly, what was the point you brought up?
Biden like said that Trump was a clown.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
taking into account more of the substance of this debate, let's move past the fact that both candidates were extremely disrespectful to each other, and many would say that Donald Trump was more disrespectful than Joe Biden. But let's go into some of the key things that was the key things that were said. There weren't many, but let's discuss some of those things. For one, there was a big question for Joe Biden about whether or not he will pack the Supreme Court and whether he will end the filibuster. Now, for those of you who don't know, packing the court means adding as many judges as you want onto the Supreme Court to weigh in your favor. The Constitution does not give the exact amount of justices that need to be on the Supreme Court. At one time there was 7. At one point there was 11. Sometimes the one time there was more. But we've stuck with this amount of judges for many decades at this point. And the former vice president did not answer whether or not he would pack the court, which many found very concerning for multiple reasons. Because once you do this, once you pack the courts and you weigh it in your favor, yes, you get that immediate, what's the word? That immediate
Rush?
no.
Wait, no. Oh my god.
You get
I'm
that
thinking of a
immediate
different type of
satisfaction.
cough.
You get that immediate satisfaction for your party, and it's very helpful for your party right in that moment. But that also opens the can of worms that in the future, you see another Republican president or a president that you don't agree with, and that president can also pack the courts. There is no limit specified in the Constitution at all. So it is and many conservative ideas stem from the idea that it's a slippery slope. But I do believe that this would be a very, very slippery slope for us to embark upon, because it's possible that you would be seeing up to 50 judges in a Supreme Court when we currently have less than 10. So I thought that was a huge disappointment on my part from Joe Biden.
I do agree. Like, the one main concern is if they do decide to pack the court, because as many of you know, like, the Supreme Court is the one real area that a president can't fire or replace people like he can with other cabinet positions. Like, legally they're protected by the Constitution. So say, for example, the current candidate, Amy, hold on, I forgot how, like, her middle name, and a lot of people are using her middle name, Comey? Amy, hang on, Barnett, let's just go with Barnett. Judge Barnett is one of the options, and knowing that she is around 40, 50 years old, she's able to stay on that court for about 40 years. And if, say, she is put into, like, she's nominated and now a member of the court, if Biden wins, Biden will be able to remove her as he would be able to remove other cabinet positions occupied by the president. So packing the court wouldn't really do much good. It would only just, like, set, like you said, a dangerous precedent.
Absolutely. And that's not just packing the court. That's also ending the filibuster. For those of you who don't know what a filibuster is, it's when somebody in Congress, either the House, no, I'm sorry, when somebody
It's the Senate usually.
Excuse me, goes up and it's their turn to speak, and they do not want a vote to be had. As long as they continue speaking in front of the Senate, the vote cannot be held at all. And there's no time limit in most cases on how long people can speak in front of the Senate. So this is a major, major issue if we get rid of this filibuster, in my opinion. So there's definitely positives and there's definitely negatives. The filibuster can be abused dramatically. Many times, both the Democrats and Republicans, respectively, throughout the years have used the filibuster to their advantage when they were in the minority in the Senate. It's very helpful for the minority, because if they feel that there's some bad legislation coming through, they can continue speaking about this. To end the filibuster, you actually need 60 members to end the debate on most topics and move it to a vote. And in this case right now, the Republicans have the power in the Senate. They have more members, but they do not have that 60. So typically you don't see that one party or the other has 60 votes. So you would need to convince some people across the aisle to vote with you, which in my opinion is very important, because that's a good check on the filibuster as well. But getting rid of the filibuster is dangerous for whatever party is in the minority. It becomes from a two-party system to a one-party system in the Senate.
Exactly. And plus, like, they already used the nuclear option, which, for those who are not aware, is like a vote that essentially removes a power. They remove that option when it comes to filibustering the Supreme Court. So I believe this was done in 2017 with Neil Gorsuch. They were trying to filibuster him, and they ended up removing that option. So having that said, with that said, sorry, my phrasing's a little bit awkward this morning because last night was horrible. We don't exactly know how much this will go through, because if we end the filibuster, we can't just like do a blanket ban. We have to focus on specific options, like say for example, as I said before, Supreme Court nominations. And the other thing I wanted to point out is like did he really get into Trump's taxes? Because I do remember a couple talking points where he mentioned how like Trump only paid $750 according to the New York Times report. Did Biden really get into the taxes? I was distracted by like looking up tickets to Ireland.
It was very briefly mentioned at one point because Chris Wallace did ask Trump if he paid his taxes. I think between 2015 and 2016, that's when it happened, right? I believe. And Trump said that yeah, he's paid millions of dollars in taxes, which once again is another account of our president lying in front of a global audience, which is this is our country, I guess.
He always lies too. Like this isn't any new. And again, these are my opinions. These do not represent the school or.
But no, but not for nothing. But like that's a fact, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that this was a lie. Like this is like more than just my opinion. I believe this. No, this is a fact that he lied. I'm sorry, I cut you off, Carly. If you want to finish
It's totally
your thought.
fine. No worries. It's just like expecting him to come into any debate or really any like forum and try to be honest is like asking a dog to do your taxes. As much as I want my dog Rico to help me with my W4s, he can't do that. He doesn't have opposable thumbs and he lives like 20 minutes away. So even if I want him to do that, he's got to like clear some time in his schedule. And expecting him to tell the truth, especially the person that advocates for quote fake news and alternative facts,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not surprised that he automatically went for lying.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's been his strategy all along, you know,
Right.
through his presidency. That's what he does. He lies. I mean, if you couldn't tell through the entire coronavirus pandemic, lying to the audience constantly, saying it's only going to last 5 days, it'll be over. It'll be over by the end of the week. Oh, by Easter, you'll see it'll be a miracle and it'll disappear.
Well, Sabrina, that's unfair to say, because at that point in time, none of us knew, including the scientists, how long this pandemic would last.
I
So
know,
but he wanted to pack the churches. Like he said he wanted a big, beautiful Easter mass.
Correct. That was not lying, though. That was his opinion, however dumb it might be.
Yeah, it was a very dumb opinion.
But it was not a lie.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I'm sorry. I gotta keep the conservative side in check here.
Of
Well,
course,
I'm just saying, but the first part I did say where when the coronavirus pandemic did start, he did say that it was going to be over. Oh, it'll be done. It'll be gone by the end of the week in a few days. Not specifically those words, but something along the lines of that.
It was
That
the
is
15
true.
days. It was the 15 days to stop the spread.
And one of the things that kind of surprised me is I know that it's for television and I know, they've set up procedures to ensure nothing happened, but I'm surprised neither of them wore masks. Like, I mean, Trump, I knew he would never wear a mask. He only wore one once, and
That's not true.
they did get tested, though.
He's been wearing masks pretty much anywhere he goes for the past few months. Before the debate, both candidates did get tested, including the moderator, and they were at least 10 feet away.
Yeah.
I didn't see any physical danger.
True.
In that.
I agree.
They should have had a plexiglass
I didn't see how
divider.
the audience was, but the people on the stage, I was not concerned for their well-being.
And they did show the audience before the debate started, and they were all wearing masks too. So I was like, okay, that's good. And they were so far apart. I thought that was completely appropriate. And I mean, I know at some point Trump did take out his mask from his jacket too. So I think they both had masks on hand, which was good.
Most of them were tested. Like, I believe most of the audience was tested, if not all, because, like, everyone needs to get tested, And this is my opinion, not the opinion of the station again.
Mm-hmm. You know what's interesting? So yesterday in my writing for the media class, we were talking about how we were talking actually about the JFK and Nixon debate back years ago, and how basically like JFK won because he was like more attractive than Nixon, which I thought was very, very interesting, you know, and that Nixon actually was better at the debate and he won it, but JFK won because he was more attractive. And the moment that like Trump and like Biden walked on the stage, the first thing that popped into my head was, wow. I was like, I think Biden's definitely got, you know, he's got the looks in a way. Like he definitely won the most attractive in my book.
I
Because
mean,
I don't know, was it me? Did you guys notice that like Trump was extra orange yesterday? Like he was like so orange, like I had never seen before.
because
Did you guys notice that too?
and like I don't know why, but like this is not a beauty contest. If it was like that, honestly, we'd have no winners. Again.
Okay, but like when you look at the two of them standing next to each other, like the moment they walked on stage, Trump walks on stage, he has like this big frown on his face, like he looks like
He's
he
always frowning.
that's true. Well, he went in heated too. He was hot. Like you knew from the beginning that he was just gonna go like attack, attack, attack. But just based on like their looks too, like I could definitely like, I don't know, I would definitely say that Biden won best for looks in my books. I liked how that rhymed. That was pretty gross.
Lewis, who do you think won the beauty competition?
Beauty competition, me.
Okay.
At one point, I turned off the screen and I saw my reflection in the screen. And I think I looked more beautiful than the two candidates, but that's not saying much. Sabrina, you said that he came in heated, and I think that definitely was his strategy throughout the debate. In my opinion, I believe his strategy was to keep interrupting, keep bothering, keep pestering the former vice president until he snapped. And the point of it was to get those sound bites so that they could put those weird lines in front of his face on video and make it red and say, Joe Biden has a mental illness. He's unfit to lead the country. That's what Donald Trump was going for last night. And I have to hand it off to Joe Biden because I would have lost it in that position. However, as Trump many times said last night, Joe Biden is a career politician who has been around the block a few times in Washington, D.C. So he knows what he's doing, even with somebody as unpredictable as the president.
I do remember hearing somewhere that it was like Biden. I think it was Biden's 27th debate, like not president, like in general, like. And, well, I don't know exactly how there's going to be like how many more? Like 2 more?
There's 2 more presidential debates. Next week is the vice presidential debate between Mike Pence and Kamala Harris, which I believe we'll be seeing more respectful conversation.
We'll see.
Because both are, in some people's eyes, extremists as well. Again, in some people's eyes. But they will listen to each other. Carly's laughing because Kamala Harris is in no way, shape, or form an extremist.
Oh my God, she's a moderate at best.
And that's also debatable. But then following that, the next 2 weeks after that, we will be seeing the last 2 presidential debates. All of them will be at the same time. And if you guys want to listen to the debates live, we'll have it. We'll be covering it on 90.3 WMSC with a post-show conversation. And this all leads up to election night, guys, and I'm going to give myself a shameless plug here. But we will be simulcasting on air our partners Montclair News Lab's television special that night on election night, followed by a long conversation about what's going on in this country until ungodly hours on election night.
Into the wee hours of the morning with cups of coffee in hand and regret in our eyes, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if these debates continue to happen, you know, there is a chance that they could end up getting called off after this extremely heated one. But I don't know.
Oh no, they don't. The party, like the candidates agree, like to these debates. And
no, but they could still definitely call them off if they didn't want to do them. You know, I think it's very possible after how poorly this one went that maybe they wouldn't want to have another one. I mean, I feel like this one really said a lot about, our two candidates here. But it's up to them.
I believe this debate was very unproductive. And I agree with it with our producer, Amanda, that I'm more excited to see Pence and Harris's debate.
Oh my God. Harris is going to go after Pence. Like, she may or may not bring out insults. Like, because Pence is like scared to be in a room with a woman that's not his wife, as he calls her mother, which is creepy. Honestly, very creepy.
And I personally don't know as much about the two vice presidents, and the candidate. So I'm interested to hear more about them. Like, I definitely follow up a lot more on Biden and Trump than I do on the vice president. So this will be very interesting to hear.
So, Carly, what you alluded to, for those people that don't know, the vice president currently does not go into a closed door meeting with a woman without another person present, at least. He does not have one-on-ones with women simply because he believes that there will be sexual allegations, and he wants to entirely avoid that. He believes that if he does not go into a closed door meeting with one woman, that he cannot possibly be accused of anything. So that is the reason that he does that. I'm not saying it's a good one, but for those of you who don't know, that's the given reason. Can I bring up a topic from the debate?
Yes.
Yes.
So at the end of the debate, Chris Wallace, the moderator, asked both candidates a very, very simple question. He asked them if they will calm their supporters and tell them to calm down while we're waiting for the results, and if we will accept the results of this presidential election. Joe Biden started his answer by saying yes, but then also giving off a little bit of a contradiction whether he would or not, saying we'll have to see. Donald Trump flat out said nothing about that. He said he will tell his supporters to watch very carefully, to watch the polls, which is a quote great thing. That's what the president said. He wants people to watch the polls.
The more and more I listen to Trump, I really believe that he's alluding to violence. He wants there to be a bigger divide in this country. He wants people to fight. Like, I just don't, I mean, his strategy, I feel like, is just so messed up at this point, where he wants people to literally physically fight for his presidency. And it concerns me, especially because, like, if he does win this election, do we need all this violence? Do we need all this separation? We should, if anything, try to be coming together as a country, and we should have a president that tries to pull us together and not to separate us.
And plus, one of the things that Trump had drawn attention to that, like, Biden interrupted him was he mentioned when it came to issues of elections not having a clear winner in time for election day. He talked about the I believe it was the Democratic primary for I forgot which district of New York City. Full disclosure, I volunteered for the Suraj Patel campaign back as an intern sometime in May, like 2020, as a phone banking person. And that race, I still think, is being contested because they did not count all of the mail-in ballots by the time election day had rolled around for them. And even though Maloney has been declared a clear winner, the candidate, like the whatchamacallit, not the incumbent, but I'm forgetting the word, and it's going to bother me for the rest of the day. The challenger, that's it. Like Suraj Patel, like, he called out the fact that there was no specific there was no specific result by election day, and I believe there's like a lawsuit going on to challenge that result. So I'm not quite sure, because that is a litmus test, because that was for one of the biggest districts in New York, specifically covering from Fifth Avenue all the way to Brooklyn and Queens, not the Queens. I sound like a tourist when I say that. And this could be a litmus test for what's going to happen with this election, because there isn't going to be I definitely don't think there's going to be a high-powered CNN graphics like this, that, and the other thing with Wolf Blitzer running around pointing at things with his projector. I think it's going to be like a slow burn, like a HBO miniseries.
So there was one more topic in this debate that I think has been sorely overlooked, because people have been paying attention to what people are calling a debate, and they were trying to talk about how Trump kept interrupting Biden and Biden kept interrupting Trump and all of that. And there was one piece of news in the debate last night that no one's talking about that could be really big news. And it's when Trump, and I believe he wasn't supposed to say this, but it's when Trump said that we are weeks away from a vaccine for COVID-19. Nobody's talking about this. We already knew about a month ago that the federal government asked state governments to remove any red tape, any restrictions on distributing a vaccine. But this is the first time that we're hearing it straight out of the president's mouth that we will have a vaccine weeks away from now. And I think that's huge news. Our producer says perfect in time for election day. And many people are saying that. Many people are saying many people are saying that it's going to be a rushed vaccine. And one of our fact checkers just sent us a thing that said most prominent public health experts say that a vaccine will not be widely available until mid-2021. But the key word in that is widely. Widely is the key word. We know that. April 2021, Dr. Fauci said, we will have enough tests in the United States to test everyone if they so chose to by April. But it's going to take some time. We're not going to get the vaccine in March and then everybody's going to have it by April. What Fauci did say that by the end of the year, we should be seeing people getting it. But now Trump's saying weeks away. That's something that I think we should talk about.
Plus, like the other thing to note is like coronavirus, like as we've come to discover, has different forms. Like the asymptomatic type, which is like the one that we are most concerned about, which is why we're wearing masks and gloves and all that. But like we can't because coronavirus is like very complicated in the fact that we are still doing active research on specific strains. And plus, even if it's in time for election day, it's not going to be like an iPhone where we can line around the block and wait for like our turn. There's going to be very limited supplies available, according to one of our fact checkers, and it'll be given to the most vulnerable people that may need the vaccine earlier due to being immunocompromised or working people that are immunocompromised. Quote, this is from Dr. Fauci, by the way, Dr. Anthony Fauci. Quote, by the time you mobilize the distribution of the vaccination and you get the majority or more of the population vaccinated and protected, that's likely not going to happen by the end until the mid or end of 2021. And it is, unquote, it is fantastic news, but at the same time, we don't exactly know what strain of coronavirus will work. We need a treatment. As much as I want a vaccine, we do need to also find a treatment because it's still going to be here even like years later. But,
yeah, and I feel like of course obviously it's good news that there is going to be a vaccine coming up in the near future, and it's good. I mean, my thing is with how Trump said it, it makes it sound like he made it sound like it's going to be like readily available for everyone in the next coming weeks. Like how he said it, it made me think, oh, like is he saying that it's going to be available soon? I just wish he were to have specified that, like, oh no, like this will be ready for everyone in like mid-April. But how he said it during the debate, like just as like an audience member, it made me feel like, oh, like is he saying that it's going to be ready in the next few weeks? And in my head I'm like, that doesn't seem right. Like that doesn't make sense. And then I know right away Biden threw at him like, oh, like you actually believe that? Like that's not true. And like to that extent, like me as an audience member thinking like, oh, does he mean that it's going to be available right away, like in the upcoming weeks. Like that doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem true. But this is, I hope this is true.
We need to take this from a political standpoint, and we need to understand that Joe Biden will say anything on that debate stage. As much as he looks like this sweet old man,
He
he
likes
will
ice cream.
say anything to win the presidency. And if that means to discredit
Well, so will Trump.
a vaccine, absolutely. But in this specific case in which we're talking about, Biden completely changed the subject right there. So Trump did not have a chance to talk about that. And for the people that are saying that we don't trust this vaccine, Trump had nothing to do with this vaccine. He didn't go into a laboratory once. This has to do with the scientists. So if you don't trust the vaccine, you do not trust the scientists.
Yeah, because Trump is giving such mixed messages. He's like, oh, I trust the scientists. Oh, I don't trust the scientists. Oh, we like never trust the experts. Like he doesn't have a clear, like he doesn't have his mind made up. So it's confusing to know if you're a Trump supporter, like, do you believe him? Do you believe the experts? Who do you believe? Because 1 minute he supports masks, 1 minute he doesn't support masks. So,
And plus, before, like his statements on the campaign trail in 2016 and later on in his presidency, he has casted doubt over the effectiveness of vaccines, specifically saying, like with his son, he wanted to space out vaccines, like specifically important ones that we, like, for example, I have to get in order to even have housing here. And casting doubt on science is something that we've seen a lot with this administration. And even if Biden didn't just go out and say, oh, I support a vaccine, still Trump's record on vaccination in general is very, very iffy. And the other thing is, as much as I want a vaccine in time for the 2020 election, I don't think rushing a vaccine is something that we can do because there's still clinical trials going on, and a vaccine isn't like a assignment for a class where you can just like rush and like type in everything. Just like that, like whoever's typing right now, like you can't just type in everything you can think of and then just send it to your professor. You're sending this to basically millions of people and making sure that the immunocompromised or the people that work with the immunocompromised get the results.
And Carly, this could have major side effects too, like we don't know. That's why you can't rush science. And as much as it stinks right now when you're in this pandemic that you can't just, as soon as you discover something, give it out to everyone. There are side effects. There could be long-term side effects for this vaccine that we don't know about. So that's why we have to take our time with this. I know Lewis wants to finish this topic out with one last question. So
all right. We did this last night on our post-show conversation, and I'm curious to hear what you have to say, the two of you. Who won the presidential debate? Your answer can be no longer than, I'll say, 5 words. Who won the presidential debate?
1 word, no one.
2
Wait,
words.
nobody. Oh my God.
Okay, nobody. All right. Sabrina?
wait, let me just think. Okay. Joe by a landslide.
Joe by a landslide. You believe that Joe Biden won completely?
Yes, I did.
Hands down, he got
Yes.
more supporters.
Yes.
Okay.
I just think no one won. Like, it was like, I've seen more civilized debate in a senior center with senior citizens playing poker. If this is the future of our country, I'm moving out. I don't want to like be here for another 4 years.
Yes, we're all moving to Canada. We've heard this.
I mean, like, I'll move to like New Zealand for like work study.
Who said anything about Canada? I'm moving to Switzerland. Like,
Yeah.
I want to go to New Zealand.
I am.
Switzerland doesn't even want us at this point.
I'm a Swiss citizen. I can move to Switzerland.
Are you?
I am.
Really?
Yes.
Like, my boyfriend's like a dual citizen. Like, he's like from, like, his dad's from Ireland, and I'm trying to be like, Chris, come on, honey, come on, marry me. We can move to Ireland. I can get citizenship. And he's like, no, I don't want to go back to Ireland ever. And I'm like, why?
So to answer my own question, because I want to, I believe that third-party candidates won this debate, and here's why. I don't think Biden or Trump won any supporters last night. I really, really don't. I went into it hoping that Biden would win my support, but he did not.
Mhm.
So I think that one of the third-party candidates might hit the 5% threshold, which we haven't seen in decades. And that's my final thoughts on the debate.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you
I
for
think-
this.
Can we move on to the Baby Yoda story, because we really need something that's like positive to like get through this, because even if like we do have like a full slate of shows that like of discussions that we do want to do like discuss, but honestly I think we need to see the Baby Yoda image. We need, like, the
Okay,
country needs
Carly.
this right
All
now.
right, Carly, you start talking about the Baby Yoda, and I'll pull it up on the screen share so we could actually see Baby Yoda.
Okay. All right, guys. No more politics. Let's talk about the most political thing. How Baby Yoda is cute, and that is a fact. We have fact checkers on this call. They cannot deny the fact that Baby Yoda is adorable. And I'm saying this as a Star Wars fan, just saying. So a young boy, this little boy in this image right here, he had seen this Baby Yoda toy in a store shelf, and he thought, because these firefighters in Oregon are battling fires and they haven't seen their families in a while. Oh, scroll down to the note. He included a note that said, quote, "Thank you, firefighters. Here's a friend for you in case you get lonely," with the heart. Love. Oh my God. This is so cute. And Carver, age 5. And so they actually took this Baby Yoda with them, and they got a little baby harness, like the kind that you see like parents do. And they took the Baby Yoda with them as they were fighting these fires. The little Baby Yoda has a bandana, like an American bandana, and he's going with them as they fight fires, and like it's become a little mascot. Honestly, I needed to see that. I really do.
There is still some good in this world.
Yeah, and like The Mandalorian is coming back on October 30th.
Mhm. Thank you,
Which-
Baby Yoda.
Thank you, Baby Yoda is the only thing that will unite this country.
I'm happy to hear that. I've never seen the.
You've never seen it?
No, I mean I've seen the Star Wars movies, but not with the Baby Yoda in it. I know regular Yoda, but I think he's a cutie too.
Yeah, regular Yoda is just as cute.
Honestly, he is adorable. When he's like, I love when he's like all like crouched over, like hunched over with like the little cane walking around so slow, and then out of nowhere he like jumps and he does like 20 flips in the air, and
Yeah,
he's
like
like, ooh, ah, and then he has his
Cirque du Soleil
lightsaber.
there.
That scene in I forget which is it, the third Star Wars movie, one
Third.
of the prequels,
One
where
of the
he
prequels,
fights
unfortunately.
Palpatine. Was it Palpatine? Yeah.
Yes.
And oh my God, it's so
I'm a
intense.
Star
I'm like,
Wars
yes, Yoda.
Baby Yoda can run for president if you think about it. He's like 50 years old, but he looks like a baby. He doesn't pay taxes. I mean, I don't want it to be
Like
how
Trump all
people.
over again.
Yeah, he's a populist. He already has popular support across the world.
Oh my God. So
But
we're
I
gonna
don't want
put
this
out
to
a
be like
poll. It's gonna be
Harambe.
like Baby Yoda, Trump, or Biden. Everyone's just gonna choose by a landslide.
Yeah, like
Baby
Lewis, you
Yoda.
mentioned third-party candidates. This is the dark horse third-party candidate that no one saw
Is it?
coming.
I agree. I'm voting for Baby Yoda.
Good.
What happened? I want to know what happened to Kanye.
I thought he was.
Anyway, different topic.
I
We'll
didn't
talk
even
about-
know.
I really don't even like know. It's just everything is so hard to like wrap my head around after this debate, and thinking about that is just like crazy.
To tie the two stories together, in 2016, Harambe had over 1,000 votes. This year, it's for Baby Yoda.
I would not be
love
surprised
to hear
if he's
that.
like the top polling candidate, because what brings together a divided nation? Babies. Everyone loves babies. Like, honestly, like everyone, I mean, then again, not everyone likes baby pictures on their Facebook feed, but that's to each their own. Baby Yoda is like uniting people across the aisle. Literally, the official New Jersey government Twitter has Baby Yoda as their icon, and he's holding the state, and I think it's very cute. I think, if anything, I'm not saying that Baby Yoda is going to be what unites us, but he certainly is not what divides us.
Well, speaking of creatures and going to actually animals, there is some good news in France right now because France's environment minister just announced a gradual ban on using wild animals in traveling circuses, a ban on keeping dolphins and killer whales in captivity in marine parks, and a ban on raising mink on fur farms. So all wild animals won't be allowed anymore in traveling circuses in the coming years, which is fantastic. So this includes bears, tigers, lions, elephants,
Oh my.
and France's 3 marine parks are no longer allowed to bring in or breed dolphins and killer whales anymore. However, this does not apply to wild animals and other permanent shows or in zoos, but this is still a big step forward for animals, especially in France, because I mean, I don't know if you guys heard about like the amount of animals that are abused in captivity and who are like I've heard so many. I'm sorry, I can't stand this light in my face.
It's fine. It looks like
The sun is still
you have like
coming
the
up, and now
moon,
it's like
the moon like flashing on your face.
shining. Yeah, no, it's flexing on my face, but it's so sad when you hear these stories about animals who are so treated so terribly in the circus and who are beaten and they live their whole life in captivity, and the fact that France is trying to do something to make a difference, and not to mention the mink farms too. I don't know if you guys know what a mink farm is, but that's when basically they trap and kill animals just for their fur, and I don't even understand why. Personally, I would never buy anything that was made of an animal for clothing. That might be my own opinion. That is my own
Including
opinion.
like leather jackets and leather boots.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want something that's made of an animal,
Good.
you know, especially if they had to die for my clothing. I mean, I guess you can make a whole bunch of arguments with that, but basically I'm happy that they're putting a ban to it into circuses and breeding dolphins and killer whales in marine parks. I don't know if you guys have seen Blackfish. I think we have
I have.
mentioned this before, Carly, but that entire documentary really scarred me and made me look at SeaWorld and all these types of places that have animals with a whole other perspective and how
Same
terribly
here.
they treat them. It's so terrible.
I'm glad that like the French government decided to do this, because even if like, you know, in the United States we no longer have whatchamacallit, Barnum and Bailey, I think it is. Like animal centric shows at Barnum and Bailey because of all the like incidents of animal abuse. It still exists like outside of the United States or in like private zoos. Like, you know, we've seen the whole Joe Exotic thing where like he had like so many tigers, and honestly I'm glad that France is stepping up, and especially with marine animals, because dolphins do not do well with captivity.
And I mean, not for nothing, but whales, I fact checker, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that whales are definitely one of the extinct animals in this world. And the fact that there are so very few of them left in the ocean and they're being captured and forced to live in these tiny little tanks where they can barely move so people can watch them. And there's been so many cases where they have gone literally insane living in captivity where I mean, there's scenarios where they have killed people, where they have killed trainers, where they have physically hurt each other because they are just so miserable and psychologically messed up because of these circumstances.
Exactly.
Lewis, any thoughts on this?
Do you want my thoughts?
Maybe I don't want your thoughts. I don't know. Were you gonna be like, what are you gonna say? Oh, I want animals stuck in circuses. Is that what you're gonna say? Or like you want animals to be miserable and tortured? Is that what you want, Lewis?
You see, if you're gonna come at me like that, I'll ask you if you eat meat.
Okay, yes, I'm saying obviously you can argue the point, but I eat very little meat. Yes, I do. I'm
But
not very proud of it, but
I'd like to defend SeaWorld though.
why?
Hold up. What?
Oh my gosh,
The-
Lewis, why you gotta do this?
It's a simple solution. The documentary was very cherry picked. They took specific instances, and there's bad things that happen in every company. I don't believe that the whales should be in captivity without a proper enclosure, and it's impossible to give them said proper enclosure because of their enormous size.
So you think that whales should be in captivity?
No, because my next point is, since that documentary came out, SeaWorld has committed to no longer breeding their whales or taking them from the sea. This is the last generation of whales from SeaWorld. They're focusing more on their amusement park side now and more of being an aquarium with smaller fish, which studies have shown those smaller fish do not experience the same trauma that the bigger fish do, because they can be in a big enough enclosure, basically. So they're focusing more on the ride side and their smaller animals rather than their bigger animals. And I think that's a much more humane approach. If we were talking about SeaWorld 10 years ago, I would tend to agree with you. But that's how I feel.
But Lewis, he always loves to
Lewis.
stir the pot. He's
But
like,
there's some good
he's like, how can I?
Every documentary is cherry picked, Lewis. Like literally, for those who are not aware, Lewis was the subject of a mini documentary for a production class about, I don't know if it was about you as like a freshman covering the 2018 debate. Literally every documentary has cherry picked clips where like they choose the best bits that represent the person, and they chose the best bits that represented the brand and how they treated animals. And sure, they changed their ways. They're no longer breeding these killer whales, and they're no longer bringing in new ones. But at the same time, you can't really reverse the damage that has been done. Especially with Tilikum, like the killer whale at the center of that documentary.
Yeah. I mean, another part of this whole thing is circuses. And like, I personally have never gone to a circus with animals involved with it, just because my parents are so anti it, and because they know how terribly some of these animals are treated in these circuses to be able to do all these stunts and stuff. Have you guys ever been to a circus with animals in them?
When I was very young, and it was horrible. Like, I don't really remember anything besides the fact that I tried to get my dad to get one of those like glow wands, like the fairies that like spin around really fast, and that it smelled really bad, and we just left.
Oh,
that's all I remember.
That's not good. All right. Well, our fact checker just gave us some more information on killer whales. So apparently their lives in captivity obviously fall shorter, and in captivity, killer whales are fed a diet of dead fish, and which is very unnatural and different than what killer whales would eat in the wild. And it's actually unstimulating.
Basically,
yeah.
when they're in the wild, part of their daily activity is fighting for these fish, is hunting for these fish. And in captivity, they don't get that. But my point remains that they are no longer doing this. The only reason that they're still doing this is because you can't release whales back into the wild after they'll immediately die.
This is good. No, this is okay. I'm not, SeaWorld was terrible back 10 years ago. I'm glad to hear about this, but there are many people in the world who still, have animals in captivity that are besides zoos, okay? And not to say zoos are good or acceptable either. I mean, personally, I feel like with zoos, it depends on the zoo. It depends on their living conditions. There's some zoos that I feel like they take good care of the animals, and it's definitely more humane than other zoos where they are shoved in these tiny little cages and they can barely move. For me, zoos, it depends on which one we're talking about. Overall, are they good? They're not. They're really not. But there's some that are definitely a lot more justified than others. And even though with SeaWorld, of course, Lewis has a good point that they are making a change and they're doing something different, and they're not going to be doing this no longer. But there are other places in the world who continue to do this, and that's where we got to step in. And thank you, France. And it looks like we're coming to an end.
Yeah, like as much as I want to continue this debate, we gotta finish up this episode of the Morning Buzz. So you're listening to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, and this has been the Wednesday edition of the Morning Buzz. I'm Carly.
I'm Sabrina.
I'm your devil's advocate, Louis Biontalillo.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening, and have a let me just scoot over here so I can continue. Have a great day.